Welcome to Southern Adirondack Outdoors. My name is Paul. We're doing something a little different today. About a year and a half, 8 months ago, I did a review on the Kubota MX6000, that you see behind me. And it got some good response, a lot of questions, good comments. I appreciate that. At that time, we were at about 120 hours on the meter. Right now, we're at 530 hours. So I put a lot of use on this tractor over the past year and a half. Mostly snow blowing in the wintertime and snow removal. Brush hogging in the summer, and a lot of time spent in the woods pulling out logs. So I thought it was time to give more of a longer term review of this. All right, so now in the original video that I did a while back, I'll put a link to it up here. You should watch that first. Actually, it's gonna be over there, I think. So go watch that first, then come back and watch this again. That had a lot of points in it I made of things that I didn't like, didn't care for, or I was having issues with. And I can report back to you today that all those issues have been resolved. They're mostly things that I just had to get used to, make some adjustment to, and how I use things. So there weren't any big deals. The only problem I still have is the hydraulic pedal for operating the tractor forward and reverse. It works fine. The only issue I have is when snow blowing, backing up long distances, and particularly snow blowing because I'm turned around sideways. It's very difficult to use going in reverse. But I've done it for 2 years now and it's worked fine, so it's just a little awkward. Now in the original video, it was commented on that I was a little negative on the tractor. I hope to resolve those today. All those negatives I had before have been resolved. I love this tractor. It's very, very good. I did have a few new findings which are a little on the negative side, but nothing major. The fuel tank gauge, not very accurate. It's more of an approximation of how much fuel you have in there. So I don't rely on it. I try to keep it above a quarter tank all the time, just in case. Brush hogging. The radiator up front has, I think it was 4 radiators back there. One for the engine, one for the oil, I believe, one for the hydro, and one for the air conditioner. And when you're brush hogging, especially late in the season when all the seed pods have come out and you're mowing over and those seeds go everywhere, the radiators plug up pretty quickly. So if you're brush hogging, bring some sort of method to clean out the radiators. It'll save you some hassle in the long run. Here's a shot of the radiators. It has the screen. This is a pre-screen, just a little thingy, little screen. And it has, I'm gonna find an angle here that'll work. I don't know what each one of these is particularly, but there's radiator here, there, this little one up top, and then the main radiator behind for the engine. So that can be a lot of cleaning to do after brush hogging. And I can usually get through half a day without having to clean them out. I have a little air nozzle thingy with a right angle on the end to get behind there to spray them out with. A little better shot here of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. The main radiator has a screen in it too as well. Also, while you're brush hogging, this relates back to the hydro pedal. If you're going along a nice smooth area, it's fine. But if you are bouncing around a little bit, going over some old plow ruts or something like that, or hit a rock or something like that, and you bounce a bit, your foot tends to bounce on the pedal. So you end up surging back and forth. And that's a little awkward to do. What my solution was, instead of going brush hogging in medium range with the hydro pedal somewhere in the middle, I go in low range with the hydro pedal all the way to the floor, so that way it's more or less stuck there. So even over lumps and bumps, it'll stay constant velocity. I guess that's really it for the anything I found since my last video on this. The one thing I came across in another person's video just a couple days ago, and I tend to agree with them. On the back here of the 3-point hitch, you use this to level it, lift it up and then turn it to level whatever attachment you have on it. Some of the older tractors, my Fords in particular, have what they call a leveling box on there. And what that leveling box is basically a crank handle which you could turn around while you're still in the seat to adjust the angle of whatever you have on the back. It was mostly handy in grading for driveways. If you have a back blade or a box on the back, box plate on the back, you could change the level on the fly. With this system, you get off and stop the tractor and do it manually. So it's a little less convenient, but still functions fine. Otherwise, as you see it here, this is how the tractor normally looks during the spring, summer, fall. The skidding winch on the back and the forks on the front. I hardly ever use the bucket. But the only time the bucket is on is for getting sawdust out of the sawmill shed and in the winter for moving snow. So this tractor really serves me four main purposes. One is down at the sawmill, loading logs onto the mill and taking away slab wood and stuff. Up in the woods for pulling the trees out. It's great for that. And also snow blowing and brush hogging. So most of the year, it's as you see it with the skidding winch on it. That's my default implement on the back for weight as well. What I do like about this tractor, and let me slip my list so I don't forget, is the power. Tractors before this were in the 35, 40, 45 range. This is 60 horsepower. And it's great to have under your right foot when you need it. But it does it in such an efficient manner, you don't usually need to ramp on it too much. Great performance for the engine. Hasn't had any issues with it. And that applies to the whole tractor. I haven't had any issues with the tractor. No mechanical problems, no error codes, no nothing. It's been great little thing maintenance-wise. I did the 400-hour service, and that went smoothly. Everything is relatively easy to get to. I can't remember which one of the filters was a little awkward, but I ended up getting a different filter wrench and it came out fine. Just getting access to it. If you do the service and you're draining the 10 gallons out of the back end, what I found handy was having your 2 5-gallon buckets and sit them on a piece of plywood or some cardboard, something you can grab onto and pull. So when one bucket's full, you can just slowly slide the whole thing over and bring the second bucket under. It's a lot easier than trying to swap buckets. Cleaner too. Maneuverability. This is a perfect size tractor for me, at least for what I do. Up in the woods, it's you can get in between trees, down narrow trails, but it's large enough tractor where it has a big enough frame, heavy enough frame for logging, and also enough power to handle that. So it's relatively compact for working in the woods. One of my main impetuses for buying this tractor was the cab. I love it. It's nice to be able to get out of the weather. And prior years, for the forecast that it was going to rain in a couple hours, I wouldn't bother going out to the woods to do anything. But with the cab, you can go out, do whatever you need to do. And when it starts raining, you just hop in the cab and go home. Otherwise, 2 hours would have been wasted without having the cab available. Comes in very, very handy for that sort of situation. Also, in the summertime, it does act like a greenhouse, so air conditioning, is a must. Even when it's 50 degrees, 60 degrees out, he'll turn it on. So the air conditioning functions good. I've never had a problem with that. Cools things down pretty quickly. Even in my case, where I tend to leave the rear glass open, to that position. So even in that case, it still works good. As this is my first cab tractor, one thing I learned, I didn't do any cleaning ahead of time for this. I like to show you things as they are. It creates quite the mess in here. From brush hogging and from getting in and out, and it just, I'm used to open stations where everything sort of falls off and falls through the tractor out down to the ground. So the cab, gotta clean it once in a while. Not a bad thing, but otherwise, it'll start to look like this. Probably one of the most common thing on the prior video was the tire selection. These are the newer R14 Ts, front and rear. They're a compromise between the agricultural tires, the R1s, and the industrial tires, the R4s. And the performance is basically accordingly. They're a compromise. The traction is better than industrials. The capacity is not as good as traction is not as good as the ag tires, and the capacity is not as good as the industrials in terms of lifting things and having solid tires. I found them to be okay. They work great for what I do. They're good in the woods, work good in the snow, go down the road pretty quietly, and I'm happy with them. I did put chains on it for this winter. Nothing fancy, just regular Roadmaster chains, I think they were. Can't remember what they were called, but just ladder type chains, and didn't have any problems snowblowing. So the tires work good. I'm happy. The only, I think there's only been once or twice where I said, boy, if I had ag tires, I wouldn't have had to put it in four-wheel drive to get out of whatever situation I was in. But since it's four-wheel drive, just pop it in and away you go. So it's no big deal. At least it hasn't been for me. Now, I don't have to go out in the mud and muck and that sort of stuff, so the mud's not a big concern for me. And also, when you have something like this, like the skinny winch, it has this tall screen on the back. Make sure you got that link adjusted so when you raise the implement, it doesn't contact the back of the cab. A little scuffing going on there from having the winch set to the wrong angle. No damage done, just a little surface blemish. I think that about covers it. One thing I do like about this tractor is the dealer. And the dealer is probably the most important thing. My dealer was great. Got this to me in a hurry, as during COVID when we bought it. Had a little bit of delay, but nothing, if I remember right, everything was according to what he was estimating. And they've had great service since then. So if you're ever up in the upstate New York area, you want to buy a tractor, check out Evans Equipment in Remsen. And there's their number. Ask for Ryan, the owner. I just remembered on my drive back that I forgot to say, remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.